Mr. Bederow.
Thank you, Judge.
Honestly, go fuck yourself, sir. You don't say that, okay? You don't lose a trial where a jury acquits someone and finds them overwhelmingly not guilty and say, I gave my sincere obligation to look into this, and I'm telling you all I saw when she's guilty. Again, respectfully, go fuck yourself.
Is that a fair characterization of what you said? Your Honor.
I want to hear objection before I hear a word out of your mouth.
Objection.
Overruled. Sit down. Oh, I said overruled. Sit down.
Swear again like that. That was, no, I mean, whatever. That was, I shouldn't have done that.
A few moments later.
You, as a prosecutor, have got to be out of your fucking mind.
Nose.
Dude, Jimmy, look at those ears.
The ears don't bother me as much.
No, I don't trust a man. I don't trust a man with a lobe like that. No,
Really?
not a fucking chance.
The mouth is butthole to me.
Very thin, paper thin.
The
Look
nose,
Oh, the nose.
the brows.
Well, listen, I will tell you though, I kind of like a fucked up nose on a guy.
I like a big old honker. I like a big nose.
old nose. Give me that beak, bitch. You know,
Yeah.
Like, I'm into it.
Come over here, cluck cluck.
Yeah.
I see some chickens that went moving on up in my biz, cluck cluck, running. Just you gotta be with the kids, the kids, the kids, the kids, the kids, kids.
And I go, oop, clutch, clench, kegel. We did it all. And I go, oh, and what happened? And they go, well, we just got 4,000 plus pages, bitch. And I said, stop it. Show me it. Take me to Unimpound Town immediately, if not sooner. So what happens?
The bitch is here.
Why are you at a football game? Are you a Fonz correspondent?
Well, no, because it's only for men over 30. Okay? Have a great night, boys. Fuck off.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me.
Hey, Blues Clues, motherfucker.
Good morning, lovies. How are we? How are thee? It is Sunday service. It is May 3rd, 2026. And we are gathered here today with our boom full. Our boom is fulleth with Tiny Mary, Tiny Jesus, Tiny Punch the Monkey, and Tiny Mama Orangutan. And we have a lot to discuss. Where have I been, you ask? Crying over Boston sports. Happy over a derby last night because I put on polka dots and thought I was a princess. Wore a crazy looking hat and lived my truth. And you know who's here today to tell me his truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help him God. Our emotional support attorney, Mark Bederow. Where is he? Let me at him. Hi, Mr. Bederow.
How are you?
Good morning.
How's it going?
It's going. We're living. You've got a laptop.
Right.
You're on the laptop. It
Today,
is
yeah.
full.
I've got multiple computers. I've got a whole thing going on here. But yeah, we're on the laptop.
I love it. It looks great. Did you get a haircut?
I did. Every couple of weeks. That's
Looks
what
nice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So I see behind you, we have to start with this because this is what we do. All right. Me and you, we think, we bleed green, red, all the things. And what a shit show of those Celtics. Tell me your thoughts.
Disgusting. Obviously, it sucks that your best player who worked so hard to come back and was playing at a pretty high level.
Yeah.
And frankly, was for the most part carrying the team in this. I mean, if you look at their plus minus on the court, off the court, he was far and away, their best player, which he's always been. I've never understood this idea that Brown, but it doesn't matter. But so with all the momentum going to Philadelphia, the way the Celtics have regressed to those patterns they've had for years, except for the year they really won the championship, where they just kind of lose at home constantly. I mean, losing 3 home games is disgusting for a team like that. I mean, I did not expect them to win yesterday, but on
Oh,
two or not without Tatum and all of
yeah.
that, but 2 or 3 times they battled all the way back.
Yeah.
They just reverted to hero ball, chucking bad three. There's good 3-pointers and bad 3-pointers. They just started chucking bad 3-pointers. And honestly, the conversation has to be had about Joe Mazzulla. He's done a lot of good things. He's probably going to win Coach of the Year, which is ironic because he ought to be fired. I'm sorry. He, he put out a starting lineup last night. They needed to change it up. I get it. And all season they played a very deep bench. They had a lot of guys getting in, and then he stopped doing it in the playoffs. And then in game 7, he just throws out a lineup that had not played together at all. And as you might expect, it was an unmitigated disaster. That early deficit, I'm sure, cost them. And, they're just taking bad fouls with their big guys. They made a trade for Vucevic, who can't even play in a game 7. He's probably the worst big defender in the entire league, and to the point where he couldn't even play in game 7 against a guy like Joel Embiid. And the coach just seemed lost. Honestly, other than the year they won the championship, he has had horrible playoffs. They had no business losing to the Knicks last year, even with the Tatum injury. They blew big leads at home, lost 2 home games. This series was a disaster. That the season before, where they lost in the playoffs to Miami, was a disaster. I don't know. And then you have to there's the Jaylen Brown issue, which I think is once again back front and center. He's out of control. He's talented, but he's not nearly as good as he thinks he is.
Right.
And a lot of fans think he is. When he's the focal point, he's out of control. He takes terrible shots. He takes terrible fouls on both ends. He dribbles off his feet. He's really good, but he's not that guy. And it was just gross. But I'm not at all surprised that they lost once it was clear Tatum wasn't going to play.
Yeah, it's so upsetting blowing the 3-1 lead, and
It's how they do it. It's how they do it. You go up 3-1 by winning in Philadelphia by 30 plus points.
Mhm.
That series should have been over in game 5. Philadelphia should have just laid down. And just died. And they didn't. And so what happens? They go up 3-1.
Yeah.
And then what do? They come home. This is a chance to just put your foot on their throat and just break their will. And what do? They're up 13 points in a closeout game in the second half at home. That should be a 30-point win. That should be. And what do? They lose. They just tighten up. They start taking bad shots. They lose. And in game 6, they just don't even show up.
Yeah, there was no one. Yeah.
They just don't show up. And then you lose Tatum. You put out this lineup, which was, honestly, Ron Harper Jr. is probably going to be a good player, but you throw him in the starting lineup with Luka Garza and look what happens. They had no answer for Embiid, but that's also roster construction. You have guys like Keita who had a good year, but takes these just stupid fouls. He needs all of his fouls when you're playing probably the most prolific flopper and baby in the entire NBA, and Joel Embiid, who, if you poke him, he falls down in agony every time and seems to get the calls. I don't know. It was gross.
It was gross.
They need to really figure. They're not going to get rid of Mazzulla. There's no way they're going to do it. I think they should at least consider it. There's all kinds of problems. I don't know what you do with Brown. You shouldn't just get rid of him for the sake of getting rid of him. But if his value is high, I would think about it. What's out there, I would strongly think about it. And I just feel terrible that Tatum worked so hard to get back, put it all out there for these guys to play the way they did when they were up 3-1, and just resort to those bad habits of just chucking garbage. I mean, last comment and end of rant. They battled all the way back. They were down 1 point with a couple of minutes to play. And all of a sudden, this is interesting. The momentum, I mean, what a win this would be. And then what do? Start chucking bad 3-pointers. Why? What? I
Right.
mean, Jaylen Brown, his whole game is driving to the basket, getting fouled, taking free throws. What is he doing? I mean, it's just they go brain dead and the coach doesn't do anything. They just continue to do it. So, whatever.
That's it. That's it.
So it's Philly and the Knicks. I mean, honestly.
What do you think? Knicks in 6?
If Embiid is back and he stays healthy, I mean, the Sixers have a really good starting lineup. They don't have much bench, but they have a really good lineup. The Knicks are a little more well-rounded, but I struggle thinking the Knicks, when your best player is a 6'2" point guard who plays no defense. I mean, he's good, but I mean, I think Maxi's better.
Oh.
I think Embiid is better than Towns, although Towns is really good. I think the Knicks have better surrounding pieces. I think Anunoby is like their Drew Holiday. And Derek White, he's just their glue guy. I think it's probably a 7-game series, and the Knicks probably win in 7. But I think Philadelphia is much better when healthy than a 7 seed, and the Celtics kind of got screwed in that regard. That they missed Paul George a lot of the season. Embiid was hurt. They fell all the way down. And that is not a 7 seed for a first round series. Having said that, 3-1, up 13 at home in a closeout game, and you lose the series, there's no excuse. It's pathetic.
It was pathetic. And it just that was heartbreaking. I thought there was nothing in my spirit that thought after game 5 and just seeing that collapse in the fourth quarter, I said it's impossible. They're going to go. I initially thought they would go to Philadelphia. They would absolutely wrap it up there. Then I said, there's no better place to do it at home. And just heart was broken. So there you go.
There's a really, really bad pattern over the past several years, most of which have been Missoula, where the Celtics in the playoffs have literally, and literally is a fun word these days on Twitter, literally have no home court advantage. It is an absolute joke that a team like the Celtics, with that fan base, with that tradition, with that skill and whatnot, cannot win at home. I mean, to lose that many games, and this has happened year after year after year, and it's absolutely pathetic.
Yeah, and it's a rough morning, I think, for all of us in the sports town, or New England, if you will, because our Bruins also were eliminated, and that was a long shot.
You know what? One comment about the Bruins, because they really blew it. I mean, they were going to lose anyway. Probably they were down 2-1, and they really don't have much offense. But they lost in the most Bruins way, because they're just. I mean, they're down 2-1. They're trying to rally, and a puck goes down the ice, and they're just very casually going back while the guy from Buffalo is skating hard, somehow splits through your guys, finds the puck. No one is covering the trail guy who's wide open in front. He scores, and it was just classic Bruins. You've got to be kidding me. They're a mess. They're just not that good. I mean, it is what it is, but I don't have any expectations for them to be good. So the Celtics should have been in the NBA Finals. Gross. Just gross.
And then that brings us to our Red Sox, which is my actual team, right? That's the Celtics. I get invested, but I'm a playoff fan, really. But my Red Sox are a nightmare.
Listen, they're unwatchable. Let's call it what it is. I mean, I have it on. I mean, I have MLB TV.
Yeah.
I watch it, but it's background noise. I mean, it's not must watch TV. Their roster is a disaster. You saw what they did with, obviously Alex Cora and all
Yeah.
that. You see how ridiculous the general manager and the owner is, and you watch them, and there's no sizzle, there's no excitement. They're just virtually unwatchable. They're boring. Their good players are in full regression mode. I don't know why. It could be just an early season slump. Remember they had all these guys who were in the World Classic who had incredible tournaments and we're going to come back. I mean, I don't know what's happened to Roman Anthony. He looks like a minor league hitter.
I mean,
Whatever. He'll be back. I'm not worried. He's too good not to be good. But I mean, he's other than him and a few other guys, they're just awful to watch. Their pitching sucks. They don't hit home runs, which in today's baseball you kind of need to do. They're just boring, and there's nothing compelling at all. I mean, what is interesting about what one thing today is interesting about the Red Sox? I would suggest to you absolutely, positively nothing. Nothing. I hope they win every game they play, but they're not interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And actually, I did find something interesting is that Cora was offered that coaching position and turned it down.
Well, I said when he got fired, I said, give it guaranteed the Phillies and Mets are coming after him, and the Phillies came after him the next day, and he wants the season off. I get it. There was also discussion about the Mets. He'll land on his feet. He'll get a job. He'll do fine. He'll do well. I don't know that he was doing his best either in terms. I mean, the fact that he's so happy about getting fired and trolling them with like pictures online, I don't think that's a great look either. I mean, it makes you wonder how invested was he. But what it really does is tell you what a mess this whole team is.
Organization is,
office, the dugout, the manager, the players. They're just a complete mess. And nothing will change until John Henry sells the team and just go away. Please, for the love of God, just go sell the team. Go play with your soccer team in England or whatever else you do. Just they're embarrassing.
Yeah.
Celtics are frustrating, but they're going to be good. They're still compelling in many ways. The worst thing you can say about a sports team and the Red Sox qualify is they're just there. They have no sizzle at all. They're boring. And when you have a game like baseball anyway, which is slow and every day, and the team is boring, they suck, they're not compelling, they have no personality, then you get complacency with the fan base. And that's a good thing because that's the only thing that's ever going to make something change.
Absolutely. And it's like you sit there and I think that looking back or looking at what happened with Vrabel, right, in the personal life of Mike Vrabel. Jerry Thornton had a good tweet this morning, said, does it really matter about Vrabel's personal life when our teams are looking like this? Like, hey, guys, and I was like, touche.
I mean, look, obviously real life with Vrabel has real life issues that, again, to me, don't impact the football team unless he's telling them things that are not true, which creates a trust issue in the locker room. But if he's not, and his personal life, I mean, I don't think it matters per se.
Agreed. And is there any updates on the Brown situation, the trade, or no? Because I thought that that was part of some sort of insider knowledge that Rossini had that we were going to get him.
After June 1st, which is when all the salary cap stuff changed over. I mean, the credible reporters who are not allegedly, stooping the head coach have also said it appears to be a done deal. So, I mean, I assume it is. And I think based on the way Philadelphia drafted a wide receiver and the way the Patriots drafted, I mean, it seems like it's happening. I don't know that she had any inside information on that per se or not. I don't know. But yeah, I think they'll get AJ Brown.
Great. And the last thing on Vrabel is that the only thing that felt more criminal to me than what was posted in those photos was that playlist, that Turn the Page playlist that was shared by Diana Rossini to someone named Mike. Okay, speculation. Was it Mike Vrabel? And those songs should be illegal. Okay, her making a Turn the Page playlist and you don't even have Bob Seger's banger Turn the Page. Come on.
She's, again, I mean, that's what people do. They go back, they look at everything and see what matches up now that you know other things. And, she's going to need a new line of work. It is what it is. She sacrificed her credibility fairly or unfairly. It's just the way it is.
It is. Truth be told. Okay, so thank you for our sports roundup. I love. Her fake nose ring just fell out. How about that? Look at this. Put it back in, you little silly goose. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, not picking my nose, everyone, and I also don't have a hole in my nose. So, I love your Syracuse hoodie. Gorge. Okay, we like that we're wearing that. Are you channeling anybody today, or do you have any Syracuse stories?
No, I went to law school there, so I just have
It's just your hoodie of choice.
Not, it's not deep in the rotation, but
I love it. Okay. And I'm not wearing a hoodie. I'm just wearing a little random thing.
It's cold here today. I mean, it's
cold.
actually, we're in the mid 40s here. So it's cold and it's sunny though, as you can tell. I'm getting like bombed by the glare from the top of the window, but I can't really fix it. So
you got like a ring light, a natural ring light. You look like you have a little halo above you. It's good. So you were on News Nation this week, okay? And that was to discuss the Sandra Birchmore case. And I wanted to talk to you about the findings and updates that have happened in her case, because the closer we get to Farwell on trial, the more wild the facts of this case become, in my opinion, Mr. Bederow. So the autopsy that initially stated from the OCME, Office of Chief Medical Examiner in Massachusetts, ruled Sandra Birchmore's death, the manner of death, as suicide. It has now been reissued, redetermined as undetermined. We know another undetermined death would have been in the case of Officer John O'Keefe and Karen Reed. But it is very rare for a medical examiner to go for where the facts are allegedly leading you to a specific manner of death of homicide, suicide, right? And then to turn it back to that undetermined is less than 1% of cases. So what was your take on that?
I mean, where do you even begin?
Right.
I think you have to start with the fact that this occurred under the eye of the Norfolk DA, who has a credibility problem in the eyes of the public on any number of things. And then it turns out when one of their own, who is deeply involved in the larger cases and decision-making in that office, is running for district attorney against, I think, the primary opposition. There's a couple, but the primary is a former assistant U.S. attorney in the public corruption unit, whose office also indicted Matthew Farwell for killing Sandra Birchmore after it was deemed suicide by, the geniuses in the Norfolk DA's office. So you look at that and you say, so now more than a year later, 2 years, whatever it is, all of a sudden during the campaign, it's heating up. All of a sudden there's been this epiphany and a reevaluation, and okay, let's call it, we don't know. Anyone should scrutinize that. And, of course, the media, they always seem to miss the point. They report the news, which is it's been changed to undetermined, but they don't follow the scent and get to the how and the why. And the question, whether anyone would answer it or not, but put that on them, is why? What led you to all of a sudden 180 this, and why now? Were there communications with the DA's office, with the investigator? Like what is it that made you do this now? And
Mhm.
as far as I can tell, and I don't read all the stories, but that hasn't been discussed. I mean, it's just reported that it happened, but you need to know why. And people should ask the candidate, are you involved in that? What do you know? Did you agree in the first instance? If he had any involvement, I don't know. But so, and given that it comes from this office, which is everything is political, they seem to have the worst judgment on so many different things. You have to question it. And then, of course, there's the practical component of this. What a disaster for Farwell, just in the criminal case. I mean, when you get down to it, his whole defense is that there's reasonable doubt because you can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she was murdered. Never mind, I did it, that there was a murder, period, like full stop. And one of the things that they were relying upon was the learned medical examiner from Norfolk County or wherever says this is all the signs of a suicide. Well, that's gone. Now they can still argue it's undetermined and whatnot, but there is a reason why the medical examiner went from this is a suicide to, well, I don't know. Logic tells you something got her queasy to make that change, whether it's pressure, politics, or science. But either way, it's not good for the defendant Farwell. It feels like business as usual politics coming from the DA's office. It feels like a move designed to help a certain candidate. He ought to be asked about it. I'm sure he'll say, I know nothing about it. That's either true or untrue. I don't know. Whatever. But something happened to make them reevaluate it all this time later when what, why, how, what, where, who, we don't know.
Yeah, and it's also like with the DNA as well, right? So now they're saying that the DNA of Farwell was found on the ligature that was used around
Well,
Sandra
wait a
Birchmore's
minute,
neck.
wait a minute. Not now that it was found. What steps were taken by the Norfolk and Massachusetts State Police in the early stages to swab for DNA to attempt to get either a sample from Farwell surreptitiously, cigarettes, touching this, touching that, getting an order for a buccal swab to then, I mean, why were the feds able to do that, but the state wasn't? So, it's not now DNA was discovered. It's just recently that the feds
Released.
announced it because
Yeah.
they felt they had to, because this guy is under the delusion that he's going to receive bail, which the Celtics have a higher chance of winning the NBA championship, which is 0 this year, than I think Farwell has of receiving
Right.
bail, which is less
Right.
than 0. But it wasn't that they just found DNA evidence. It's that why didn't the state make efforts to find it back then? And did they? Whatever. I mean, you could go on, and no one's asking these questions.
Yeah, and they did. See, that's the thing though, is right, like we've discussed even previously, Mr. Bederow, is that they did swab things and they asked Matthew Farwell for his DNA. He said, "No, bro.
Okay.
Thanks. No,
So,
thanks, bro." But
well,
then they
when
got the order from the feds.
when you ask the obvious suspect for DNA, okay, he sexually groomed and raped this child, and yes, there's no such thing as consent, by the way, when someone is under the age of consent. That's called rape in our world. So they did not have sex. He raped her again and again and again. He can't find his electronic communications, which appear to just disappear. He is the last man seen with her immediately before she's found hanging. You now know that he was trained, like in police work, in recognizing hangings and suicides, which is interesting. You know that he learned about her pregnancy almost a day or whatever it was, or very shortly before she ended up hanging by a doorknob. This guy is such an obvious suspect. Okay. And it's wonderful, and it's very nice that they would politely ask him for DNA, and he says no. And you ask, when they asked him for his DNA, did they ask if he takes cream and sugar with his coffee and what else? And if he says no, any serious investigator is going to analyze that and say, why not? Okay, that is inherently suspect. He may have a legal right to do it. I get it. If I'm his lawyer, I'm saying no too. But any serious investigator is going to say, why is this guy refusing to give us a DNA sample? And then any serious investigator is going to say, well, how do we get a sample? There are many ways. Again, anything he touches. And if that matches, okay, they would have cause to get a court order to compel a sample of his DNA, like a controlled sample, a buccal swab, and do that. They could have done that anyway. There's many things they could have done, but the fact that they had John Doe DNA, okay, on the strap that was used to hang, whether by her own hand or someone else, and they just shrugged their shoulders and said, well, it's John Doe DNA. And, you know, this guy who raped her repeatedly, deleted evidence, was the last person to see her, found out that she was pregnant, went over there, said, I'm not giving you DNA. And they look at their watch and say, whoops, shift's over, time for dinner. Where are we going, boys? What a disgrace. And the fact that it took the feds to pick up their garbage and take out the trash and do it just, again, sheds such a poor light on this DA's office. It makes the public not have any credibility in what they're doing. And it ought to make the public, including the media, say now amid this big campaign, all of a sudden there has been an epiphany on the state side of this equation where they say, you know, it's an undetermined death. And nobody's asking what in the hell led to this and why now? Why didn't you get an order or attempt to get an order for his DNA? Why didn't you attempt to find discarded items that he touched and try to use that? I mean, that's not, you're going to always want to get a controlled sample, a buccal swab from the cheek, but there are ways to get there investigatively, and they didn't do it. Okay. They call him Matt. They interview him in police cars. They interview Matt. They shrug their shoulders at all this deleted evidence. They just are not credible in this case. And in my view, many other cases, but to get to the point 10 minutes later, why is nobody asking the candidate and the people in charge at the DA's office, the medical examiner's office, why now? What makes you say this now? And if the answer is, well, the feds told us the DNA is on the strap. I mean, come on. That's the reason.
Yeah. If it was.
Here's the thing. When you ruled it a suicide, you ruled it a suicide based purely on how she was found and medically. And if, you know, obviously, you know, Birchmore family got a private medical examination, which said, no, scientifically, it doesn't make sense because of the hyoid bone, all that. Okay, that's the question for the medical examiner. Forget the background, the DNA, the science. You said her body looked like a conclusive suicide, yet you saw the same evidence that Dr. Bodden saw, right, on behalf of the Birchmore family, and he saw this and you saw that, and now you're telling us after all this pressure and all this other evidence, well, I don't know. I mean, they have no credibility. You know, it chops off Farwell's knees, which I don't think anybody cares about. I mean, they certainly, you know, harmed him, but they don't care about that. But it reeks of helping their preferred candidate win an election. That's how it looks. That may not be the case, but that's how it looks. And they have no credibility, so they don't get the benefit of the doubt. And that's why many people watching would say, it looks like a political move trying to boost the campaign of their preferred candidate. And if that's not the case, then that may be, but they lose the benefit of the doubt based upon the way they've handled case after case after case.
Agreed. And then also, though, interesting that Brennan's deviated septum said, isn't the ME under the Mass State Police Authority, not the DEA? That's very interesting because we have in Massachusetts, the ME's office, the OCME is, and I have said this is a problem since day one, as previous, the former DA in Norfolk County, can't think of his name right now, but he's amazing. I really like him. He always said that it was another arm. The ME's office is just an arm of the Mass State Police because there is no independent investigation. They have always taken what the investigators said from Mass State Police and used that in their findings for all autopsies. And that's where we have problems, because scientifically, it is not feasible that Sandra Birchmore had a fractured hyoid bone from a partial weight-bearing hanging. It's impossible. It is impossible. It is highly likely in strangulation. Okay. That is where that occurs 9 out of 10 times. You are never going to see it when somebody has sat down and allegedly unalived themselves. So that was a problem. And I always said, if the medical examiner had missed it, then maybe she needed some re-education, right? Let's do some remedial skills and whatever. She saw it, Mr. Bederow. She saw the fractured hyoid. She still documented it as a suicide. And that was based on what? The information from the scene that spoke to her, because medically it would have told you, you would have looked at that and said, a suicide doesn't work here.
It doesn't, and there's other issues. I mean, and again, you can go back. I mean, all roads always seem to lead back to an example from Karen's case. Look at the state police and the attempted influence that they tried to exert on the medical examiner in that case.
Irene Scortabello,
Okay?
yeah.
I mean, did any of that happen here? I don't know. Medically, why did she conclude the way she did? I don't know. And there's other evidence. I mean, this is not scientific, but there are those little things that Columbo, I mean, if there was a Columbo episode about Sandra Birchmore, I can tell you what the little thing would be. Okay. The fresh load of laundry. Okay. You don't have someone who goes through the ritual of this method of suicide. Okay. I mean, think about it. The way if you accept the fact, or you believe that that's what occurred, about, wrapping it on your neck in a doorknob and all that. I mean, the whole setup, it's chilling to think about. I mean, that's like, there's preparation there. Do you know what I mean? It's not like a 2-second thing. But before she did that, she had to do a load of laundry. I mean, are you kidding me? Just as a matter of like a distraught person who's about to end their life in a very gruesome way.
Painful, slow way.
Wants to, make sure that when they find me hanging, that someone will change my laundry and put it in the dryer. I mean, these are little things that should have made a serious investigation. It's not proof. I don't suggest, it's not what I mean, but that is the kind of thing that a serious investigator, it would bother them, and they would say, we need to look deeper and deeper. And you add little things with other suspicious facts. Why was this guy here and then gone? She's dead right away. The same guy who deleted the messages, the same guy who was sexually abusing and raping her for years, the same guy who then later said, I won't give you a DNA sample. Now, it's his right. You don't have to legally do it. I get it. But, it's fair for an investigator to say, but you're an innocent person that has nothing to do with this. You haven't touched her. You haven't done any of this. Why not do it? And they just look the other way and just take his answer, shrug their shoulders, and call it a suicide and do this. Done. And now, a year later, their preferred candidate is in this, high-profile race. Seems like a pretty serious battle going on. And all of a sudden, there's an epiphany that makes them say, you know what? Let's call this a undetermined death. And this is right after the other candidate is promoting the fact that the Birchmore family vigorously supports him in this. The fact that, he comes from the office that indicted Farwell and has the chops on public corruption and wants to clean up this mess of an office. And all of a sudden, during the campaign, they say, okay, it's an undetermined death. We don't know that it's a suicide. They don't get the benefit of the doubt. They're just not credible in that regard. And it's because of all the problems they've had. So I just don't know why anybody would take that office's word about these kinds of things when it appears to be so politically based and designed to help someone. And if it's not, they should come out and say it's not and explain why it's not. And they're not going to do that. They
They're
never will.
not. No. And it is interesting because I recall seeing DA Morrissey on every single presser that he did related to Sandra Birchmore's case continuously refer to her death as a suicide. And I feel like that was a re-victimization of not only her, but her unborn child and their family. When you have the feds who got their own independent autopsy that came back homicide, and the family of Sandra Birchmore that came back with another autopsy that confirmed a homicide. But for him to still keep needling, doubling down, I mean, as recently as like last month, Mr. Bederow.
The problem with that office is, what percentage of the public thinks that on some level, they framed Karen Reed? A lot of people. I don't know what the percentage is, a lot. And what percentage of people, and this is even worse, believe that they participated in framing Sandra Birchmore for her own murder by calling it a suicide. I mean, think about how if you believe that she was killed by Matthew Farwell and the DA and the state police blessed him as, an innocent victim in all this, other than being, a child rapist and disgusting pig for 20 other reasons, put all that aside. If you think it's bad, framing Karen, if that's what you think, imagine framing a young pregnant woman for her own murder by calling it a suicide and smearing her in death that way. It's just
unfathomable.
It's what a place.
What a place. And I think that, like you're saying, this is a way or a means in which to redevelop or try to at least get some sort of public trust back with an office, with a Mass State Police, by doing the right thing. But we need to have full transparency of why.
The only way anyone is ever going to have trust in an entity that goes by the name of Norfolk County DA's office is to throw everyone out and bring in completely new people, whomever that is. Obviously the word we've used in the past is fumigated. Maybe that's too strong with them as opposed to like the state police. But if large segments of the population don't believe that office has any credibility, the only way that that's ever going to change is to sack the whole leadership, sack anyone whose fingerprints are on any of these cases, bring in fresh, new, non-corrupt, dedicated to truth, justice, and the American way. That sounds so cliche. People who have the chops to do that. And look, people will vote. So, and it is what it is. And if they vote for the guy who's currently in the office, so be it. I mean, that's on the people who live there. If that's what they want, then you get what you want and you get what you deserve. But it's not going to solve the credibility crisis. And to me, that's kind of I don't know why they don't really campaign on that. I mean, I don't know that you can blame Greg Conner for every problem with the DA's office. It's fair to question. It's fair to ask. Some people say, oh, he's on all these emails about these cases. I don't know what that means. I mean, there could be 50 people on those emails. I don't know. It's fair to ask. But what I can tell you, and I don't understand why they don't campaign on this, is that can you ever really trust that it's not going to be business as usual in the DA's office if you replace Morrissey with his hand-picked successor who's been there for 20 years and is essentially going to just take the baton from Morrissey and carry it on? So whether he's a good, ethical attorney, which he may very well be. I don't know. I mean, he had a good reputation as a trial lawyer. He handled cases. Good for him. But if I'm running against him, I'm saying he's almost a victim of circumstance, even beyond himself, that this office needs new blood and you're not. So you need to go respectfully because you're part of that. And the public trust is never going to be regained if Michael Morrissey says, this is the guy that I want.
Yeah.
And But again, the voters will do it, and it's the concern I'd have is that, the new DA is going to, in a race of 3 people, is going to win with 47 votes. I mean, it's going to be like no turnout, and they win with such a small amount of votes. But again, I don't live there. You don't live there. On that level, it doesn't affect me. And the people to blame are the people who live there, and you get what you vote for. You get what you deserve, whichever it is.
You get what you get, and you don't get upset.
Right. And if they want a continuation, if they think this is a good DA's office and they're doing a great job, then they'll vote for Connor, and that's America. That's democracy.
Yeah. I got to say that I'm more nervous now because you brought this up to me so many times about the split vote. I have absolute terror. I'll have thoughts about if the vote isn't astronomical, if the turnout in Norfolk County isn't unprecedented, the amount of people that show up and show out that day, I am very nervous that it's going to be status quo, that the other person, the typical person, is going to get in. The hand-picked Morrissey replacement will get in because of the DeJuna / Deitch / some votes taken away. Even 1%, 2% matter in these specific elections when you're talking about 47 votes, for example.
The obvious comp to this is the 2016 Republican nomination. And this is not a political Trump pro or con. This is an analysis of what happened. Okay.
Right.
There were 10 candidates running for the Republican nomination in the beginning, and it lessened somewhat, but there were several. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was obvious in 2016 that no matter what, okay, that Donald Trump was going to have his core group of whatever percent, not a majority, but 10, 15, whatever percent, no matter what, who are going to vote for him. And I think, didn't he even joke, I could walk down Fifth Avenue and shoot someone, whatever. My point is, he had that core group. And so you win by plurality, right? So these other people get 3%, this one gets 6, this one gets 4, but he gets his 15 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And in this election, this guy Connor is the obvious candidate of people who support, Karen Reed is guilty. They're going to have that core group. Okay. We always joke. I would safe to say that, Connor will win certain corners of Canton by, 100% to 0. Okay.
Mhm.
In certain households and other places. And he's going to have that core group, and he's running against 3 or 4, but it seems like really 2 other people who are splitting that. One of whom is trying to distinguish herself by taking a few shots at, the other guy. The other guy who is running on, I'm a former Fed, I'm a corruption prosecutor, I have these great endorsements, but I don't know where the percentages come out. I don't know who does polling on this, if anyone. I don't know. But if Connor, and they're all in the same party, which is also the key. So there isn't going to be a one-on-one here. The winner is going to be the Democratic nominee, who will then win, unchallenged, because that's how things are done in Massachusetts. It's just a one-party state, and whatever. And that, what? That's your fault if you live there, and that's how it is. But the point is, not you personally. I mean, hello,
Mr. Bederow.
But the point is, people need to keep fact of that this is a Democratic primary, and whoever wins it is essentially gonna win. And all they have to do is get more than 2 other people. And one guy is on one side of the table. All the other people are on the other side, fighting each other to take on the right to then hopefully get more votes than the other guy. That's not a good place to be.
It's not. It's not at all. And I think that it will, I don't want to say make or break, but it feels like this could be a turning point, right? I know that you're saying that we have to like recreate the wheel. It has to be broken in order to be built up. But
I
this would really send a message, right?
I
Like a huge
agree,
message.
a huge message, but I also think like, I mean, I'm not a political operative. I'm not a political candidate. I
Mhm.
just watch, and I'm watching from afar. Doesn't affect me, literally. But I also, I look at what's happening and I say, man, the missed opportunities that these candidates let pass by. I saw last week or the week before, there was some kind of candidate forum.
Yes.
Okay. And Connor didn't show up. Now, he said he had commitments. Fine. I'm not disputing that. But if I am the other candidates, I am making a big, why won't you come here, sit down and answer the difficult questions? I have difficult questions for you. I don't understand why they don't challenge him to a debate and say, let's talk about all of this and why you think that the DA's office is a great place that you've been a part of for 20 years and should continue. I don't understand why they don't challenge and confront. I don't get it.
Yeah, that's the way to get to your viewers, your constituents, your people, to get the message of like, this is why, this is who I am, this is what I am running on, and this is what I believe. In certain circumstances, these opinions are huge.
Right. And I think there ought to be difficult questions asked of Connor by Deitch and Perkins, and fair game. I mean, if Connor or people on his behalf have serious questions that they think are relevant to Deitch and the other one, they do it. I mean, why wouldn't they do this?
I say old fashioned. Listen to me. One thing, and again, not political, but President Trump in those debates in 2016, I was out of my tree. I lost my mind. I go, I can't believe he's saying this. What is he saying? He's like, oh, with the tax code, when Hillary Clinton asked him about the tax code, and he goes, yeah, because I'm not dumb. Okay. And I use it to my advantage. And it's our tax code. If you wanted to change it and you didn't want me to have these loopholes, then you guys should change it. Not my problem, not my circus, not my monkeys. I go, oh, I lost my mind. But here's the thing. Those interactions become, and debates, and the art of debate, and the art and the decorum of being able to have a even adversarial opinion with people, and then at the end of the day shake hands and walk off stage because we're all Americans. That is a lost art, Mr. Bederow.
I mean, look, you have a candidate who has been in that office for probably 20 years at a high level and is presumably involved in decision making, and says, trust me to steward this place to the next generation with all the problems that they've had. I think it's certainly fair for the voters to see a former AUSA who investigated that office, works on public corruption, says there were problems, his office indicted Farwell, wants to change the office. Why wouldn't these two people and others as well have a polite, respectful, but vigorous,
Yes,
healthy debate about what is better? And it doesn't have to be nasty. It doesn't have to, for the Twitter lawyers on their couches across the country claiming this and that. They can shake hands and be polite. They're all respected lawyers, and that's how it works in the real world. People on the couch. But why wouldn't the voters be entitled to that? I mean, there couldn't be a bigger difference in direction given the recent history of that office. And it just feels like they're just kind of dragging to the finish line. And I'm not sure why, if you're trying to change that office, you wouldn't engage more vigorously and directly. I mean, like, you are from the office. It doesn't make you corrupt, but like, why should we trust a guy? You had a chance to change things. You've been there 20 years. You didn't. Okay. By all accounts, some people think you passed on the Karen Reed case. Why? What do you know? Did you tell them it's a bad idea? Do you defend it now? What would you do differently? I mean, these questions write themselves. Same with Birchmore. Like, were you involved in that? What do you think of them changing the manner of death? What do you are you proud to have Michael Morrissey's endorsement? Would you just be what would you do differently than him? I don't know the answer to that because I don't think they've said anything.
No, they haven't. And I would be interested to see if he would double the F down. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, remember Proctor on his interview and said he would do nothing differently? When you double down like a walking asshole, I wonder, would there be something within Connor that would be like, I gotta say, shit,
I don't
hand up.
I don't think I'm breaking news here, but I will certainly say it's obvious, I think, to any reasonable person that Greg Connor is just a wee bit more intelligent and savvy than Michael Proctor. So I assume if you could extract an answer from him, which will be difficult because politically he ought to say nothing, not show up, but he ought to be called out for it. But I would be hard pressed to believe that he would literally, there's that word again, bless the Morrissey DA's office and say, I'm here to carry the torch and just continue what we've done. I mean, I think that would be political suicide.
Yeah, that would be that would be the coffin.
I mean, that would be a commercial. If they did commercials in this, say, there you go. If you want Morrissey, vote for Connor. That's it. But I mean, look, we don't know because he's not being asked and not being forced to answer. And he may have very good answers. Again, I don't assume he's corrupt, the bad guy or anything.
Right.
The biggest negative is that you've been part of this declining office for 20 something years. And we need to know, not me, the voters need to know that you're going to be different than what we've had. And why should we believe that? Make him answer. He may have a very good answer. I don't know, but there's no answer. And if you fall for that, you deserve what you get. If you don't ask difficult questions, you deserve the candidate you get who you did not demand to answer them. That's all. That's democracy.
That is. So let's let freedom ring and let us get our own ad on. And I think it's time for a Zabar's non-sponsored coffee break.
Okay.
See you in a few. Lovies, take your time. Get your shit together. Let's listen to some music, EDM in the morning. Mr. Bederow's favorite. That's me. Non-consensual. I got a tall boy. America. Sorry, I'm turning it off. Not your favorite.
No.
Your least favorite thing that I've ever done is play that song.
I don't know. Least favorite? I don't
You
know.
hate it.
I need more time.
Oh, there's so many things. Jeez Louise. I'll take that as a note. What are you drinking this morning? Zabar, is it Zabar's?
Zabar's in God, it just occurred to me. I'm like really orange today. We have the Syracuse orange and the little orange bird. Think orange today.
Oh,
Apparently.
where's that little orange bird from?
That's a Disney thing.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a Disney like mug. See, 50 years of
oh,
yeah, yeah. So
50 years of magic with a little bird.
Zabar is in like a lot of orange today, apparently.
Well, that's you. Okay, so listen, I wanted to play something for you if you will allow me. It is a 1 minute and 30-second clip from who's his face? Deitch, when he was at the Rappaport Center, Boston College, which I was like, bitch, I wish I was there. But this came from Mizzy and Justice for Sandra Birchmore page, which I was like, Mizzy, good girl, great job. So shout out to Mizzy, shout out to Suzanne Cleveland, because they're my queens. And let's just play this little doing a little audio for you. And then you are going to tell me, fuck off, or what you think about it. On your mark, get set.
90 seconds, I will focus on one thing, and my number one priority upon taking office in January. I think after transitioning to a leadership role in the office, the first priority of my administration would be to identify every single case where there are victims and survivors and families who do not have answers and do not feel like they've received justice, and evaluate each one of those cases, task assistant district attorneys and staff to find those answers and to provide them to those victims, survivors, and families. Part of my accountability agenda, I have a comprehensive policy platform here, and was the first candidate in the race to come forward with any kind of detailed policy. Part of it is creating a real conviction integrity unit, creating a cold case unit, and ensuring that this district attorney's office is not going to be one where Sandra Birchmore's family is still looking for answers and where Sandra Birchmore is still listed on a death certificate as having committed suicide. It's not going to be a district attorney's office where John O'Keefe's family either doesn't know or hasn't gotten an answer from the DA's office for what happened. Or if the DA's office has utterly failed to provide justice, it needs to revisit that case and figure out what happened and have a dialogue with John O'Keefe's family about what the facts actually are.
It's a bold statement, Cotton.
Well, yes, but I think also it has to be put in context. And I want to be careful because, I mean, obviously the O'Keefe family, you know, they had a loved one who was killed, and
of course,
some people think murdered, some that whatever. So you have to give them a wide berth of emotions and beliefs and whatever. And they would presumably tell you, we're satisfied with answers from the DA's office, and we got them from Morrissey because we think Karen did it. And there's nothing you're ever going to say. Now, if he says, look, let's have a dialogue, I'm the new DA, and I want you to be aware of certain facts, then I think that's a great idea. In other words, they should all talk, and you know, maybe that changes their view. Probably not, but you never know. But it's not like the DA's office has ignored them, the current DA's office. Mm-hmm. They're telling them their version, and the O'Keefes have accepted that. And I've seen this in other cases, murder cases I've handled, where I think, you know, someone's not responsible, but the family doesn't want to believe different. And, you know, I just kind of shrug my shoulders at it, because what do you expect? You know, they've been told something, they want to believe it, they want answers. It's easier to have answers than not have answers. Okay. So I think it's great that, you know, I want to alert you to new facts that you probably are different analysis than you've heard. But in all fairness, it's not like the DA's office has ignored and not met with the O'Keefes. I mean, you know, be fair to the analysis. It's just they have an answer that a large segment of the population doesn't agree with, but they have answers. The better question, perhaps, and I don't know the answer to this, is did they ever pursue answers from the federal government about what they were doing? And that can get tricky. You know, an investigation is confidential, and if there are no proceedings, there are rules. But, you know, it seems to me that if I were the family, I would want to know all views, all things. And I don't know if those conversations ever happened or not.
Right. And, you know, sometimes with grief, if we are able to extend grace in certain areas, it is that grief and a story that you've been first told sometimes can take hold, right? And if that DA's office was hell bent on what I believe what they were going to do, it was always going to be not follow where the evidence took us, but what the narrative was that they wanted to put forth.
It's not just the DA that framed that narrative. I mean, don't forget.
Mass
I mean,
people, yeah.
the evidence. I mean, within hours and days
Hours.
of John O'Keefe, you know, there were people that are very, very prominently involved in this, whatever this is, who were sitting down with O'Keefe family members, taking notes and creating timelines, which is fine. They all know each other. I mean, obviously there's a relationship there, but there's no question that part of framing that thought process are people that they trusted and are comfortable with, but who were directly involved in the issue itself, which, you know, can be bias and a reason to kind of, you know, try to convert to your side for obvious reasons. But ultimately, you know, the DA endorsed those views of the witnesses, met with the family, and the family stands by it. I mean, there's, you know, 37 lawsuits going back and forth about this where, you know, the family's involved in some of them. I mean, they're going to think what they think, and they have every right to think. And a new DA has every right to welcome them in to talk and say, have you considered this? And they can agree or disagree. But, you know, it doesn't help when people who support the family are, you know, accusing, you know, the candidate of, you know, all kinds of stuff. And I mean, again, it's just part of the unhealthiness in terms of the online stuff and drama that goes on with all of this. But I mean, any new DA should say, yes, I'm willing to talk to families of people who I don't think have been getting justice from this office and explain, you know, why that is. Try to let them know how the process works, try to be transparent and have a conversation and then agree or not. I mean, so I agree with what he said, but I think it's clear to understand that it's not that the O'Keefes have not had the chance to speak to the DA's office. They have. They just, it's the Morrissey DA's office, and the candidate thinks differently, like most people do. I mean, I don't know what the percentage is, but I think it's clear a majority of people don't think that John O'Keefe was killed by Karen Reed.
Or a Lexus vehicle, for that matter. There is a lot there. And I find it very interesting, though, to listen back to that less than a week ago, you have him make that statement, or Deitch make that statement about the suicide not diagnosis, a manner of death for Sandra Birchmore, and then we've got to change.
Well,
and
yeah, it goes back to what we said earlier, you know, 30 minutes ago. You can either give these people the benefit of the doubt or not. Based on everything you've seen in the Morrissey DA's office, it's your right to believe what you want to believe, but I mean, I don't take what they say at face value. I don't know that it's not true, but I don't assume just because they're the DA's office that what they say is true. They have lost their privilege for me and others to assume that they're per se credible. And that's based on evidence and other things that we've seen. I don't give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm willing to consider it. I don't assume it's a lie, but I don't just accept that what they say is accurate. And I suspect most people don't at this point, which is probably why that office needs to be completely changed from top to bottom, culturally, training wise, leadership wise. The place needs to be gutted. And then, perhaps at that point, the public will start the process of having trust and belief and credibility in the chief law enforcement officer of the county, which, you should, but why would you in that county?
Yeah, it's jarring, and I think that there is also something to be said for our Mass State Police and what that training and the kind of reculturing needs to occur there. Ted Daniel, our homeboy, okay, my home slice, Ted Daniel, uh, did revealed some behind the scenes stuff this week on Fox 20 or just Boston 25 now that the lawsuits that are going on against specific Mass State Police and that it's costing taxpayers so much money. And then he went to like saying that Colonel Noble has a 5-point plan because we know that Colonel Noble came in after Colonel Mon, and Colonel Mon just wanted to get out. That poor man was like, please God, tell us what to do. He was like, I'd rather serve time in hell than stay here, because he was quite literally just the interim colonel, but he ends up coming from New Jersey. Colonel Noble he looks a little Third Reich adjacent for me. It's like a little, I get the ick, but specifically, he's saying that he has a 5-point anti-corruption plan. He has this, like he wants to reset the culture. He wants to put in overtime watchdogs and audits. He wants to make sure that in every single cruiser of every Mass State Police trooper, there is that like a not turn on and turn off where your location is. You remember how Proctor, when he was down in the Cape with Kevin Albert, like that whole shit show. So listen, I feel like he's trying, but like it's so ingrained that I don't even know how from the top, how can you get through all of those layers, Mr. Bederow, that have been built under like false pretense and a band of brothers for so long?
You can't. I mean, you have to tear it all down and replace the culture. If you don't change the culture, you're not going to change anything. But on the other hand, you can't just come in and literally fire from top to bottom, because then you have no state police, and
Right.
that's not a good thing. Let's be serious about it. You can't just like literally like wipe out the agency. But you need to recruit better. You need to raise the standards. You probably need to pay better, perhaps higher standards, higher pay, and start from the bottom and just phase out the bad people. I mean, obviously there are some people you just get rid of, the people who are just awful, the Proctors of the world and those types. But beyond that, the only way you can effectively make change is change from within, by changing the culture and bringing in new people. And that takes time. I mean, if you're inheriting a sick agency, it doesn't heal overnight. There's going to be problems. It's going to take time. But the question is, are they replacing with better people? But again, if you want to get better people, how do you do that? You have to raise the standards. You have to raise the pay. You need to recruit. I mean, it's like any other industry, right? You get better people when you have better pay and better things to add. And it's,
Respectfully, Mr. Bederow, they make more money than fucking God. They make more money. Those Mass State Police are raking in the money. And it's to the point where, like, and not even with overtime and their details and all of the things, it is like when you look at these salaries and you're looking at someone making over $200,000 a year, when I'm killing myself as a nurse, like, come on.
No, but when I say better pay, but I'm saying, but better standards, like, again, better qualifications, more serious responsibilities. Even though it's the government, on some level, it is a market driven thing. I mean, if you're going to be a police officer here instead of there, where do you go? I mean, there's a reason why, a lot of people leave the NYPD and go to the Port Authority Police, because they're giving them better money and stuff and whatever. That's just the way it is. But whether it's money or other things, until you replace the culture and just get better people, you're going to have a sick agency. And
Yeah.
it is
And
what
we've always said this too. It's always been like, and I hate to use an analogy of cancer because God forbid, but like the cancer has spread, and when something metastasized, like you have to like have a plan, but it's invasive, right? Those are invasive treatment that needs to be happening at this point in order for you to save, right, the organism, because either it's going to be completely taken over or you're going to eradicate it. And we've got to figure out and just as I think talking about it is huge, Mr. Bederow. You coming on and having a discussion with me, just a little coffee convo with Kimmy, that is something that we're allowing just more ears to hear, just hear, hey, this is what's going on. And when our eyes were open to it, it's like, I'm never going back to sleep. After I saw what happened in Karen's case specifically, and me just not being able to correlate and look and say, like, wait, these injuries, like that was where the questions began with Sandra Birchmore, the injuries. This is where the questions began of how did we get from, and I'm no police officer. I wasn't paid to investigate. I'm not a detective. I completely understand that and respect good police and good detectives. But when you look at the failures, the systematic failures that seem to continue to occur in our Commonwealth on cases that are in front of us, never mind what we don't see, it is alarming.
Well, how long has it been going on, and who knew what and when did they know it? I mean, you don't even know, like with like Proctor, for example, how many years has this been going on just based on his messages?
Yeah.
And how many people have known and stayed quiet? I mean, when did he send this message about, laughing about having holidays in Canton about, killing Black people? I mean, and who knew about it? And what did those people do? Did they report it? Did they laugh at it? I mean, what if those messages are like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old or longer and have been systemically going on long before he got his, stuck his hand in the pie in the Reed case? Who knows? These are things that ought to be answered. And frankly, we don't know the answers. And you may not know, but it's a cultural problem in the place, and it's going to take time. You can't just fire everyone. But there are certain people who clearly should go, and they need to hire better people, and they probably should engage consultants and help them. Who are we targeting? Or talk to distinguished former troopers, who are like really good and honest and have it. I mean, like Todd McGee, you know him, you've seen him around. Great guy, great former state trooper. Go to someone like that. I mean, you couldn't have a better representative of that agency than somebody like that. He has his own business. Consult, ask him, ask others like him.
Agreed. And I think that, like, when you're saying who are they targeting, I'd like to say women, Black people, gays, that's who they're targeting. Just kidding. But realistically, it's like, what are we doing? And it pains me to think not only what was sent, but it's like what was received on the other side. Did Yuri, just saying, I'm just throwing it out there, like who acknowledged it? Who thumbs up it? Who was laughing their ass off about whack ass shit that in the year of our Lord after 2020, like 2020 or even 2000, who is making jokes as a public or thinking that they're jokes or off color humor, no pun intended, that you're doing this vile shit and thinking that you're going to say it and get away with it because you had for an extended amount of time. It is sickening. Well, racism, sexism, and homophobia have no fucking place in policing.
Of course. I mean, anybody would agree with that. But the real disturbing part is to put that in writing and hit send tells you there is a level of comfort there that to whoever the recipients of those messages are, that you are simpatico in having these conversations and laughing in writing. And we still don't know who the recipients were. But, you know, it's one thing. You can't control what somebody thinks in their mind.
Right.
It is what it is. But for someone like Proctor to put down in writing misogyny, sexism, wishing death, talking about negotiating who gets the bribe, joking about killing black people, homophobic comments, allegedly sharing photos of a sexual nature, probably lying or joking about looking for nudes, receiving nudes, haven't found any. To put that in writing is a whole nother level of disgusting, because it means he's comfortable, and it means he's comfortable sharing it with other people. And you need to know, are those other state troopers? Are those Canton police? The evidence would seem to suggest it's at least one Canton officer, probably. Are they just his drinking buddies? Who is it? I don't know. But if you know, even from Karen's trial, that on some level, his direct supervisor was aware of what he was saying and involved in these conversations and giving thumbs up to some of it. And then saying, well, all I meant by that was, you know, whatever he said, who can even remember? But I wasn't agreeing with it. I was just acknowledging that I received it. Does anybody seriously believe that? I mean, nobody believes that. No one, I mean, other than people who just are going to determine that, you know, a certain person is guilty of a crime. So every fact I have to distort to support what I believe. But these messages, how long have they been going on? Who's been receiving them? Were they forwarded to others? Who knows?
And there was a win in court this week, I believe, that stated that all of those messages will be turned over to Karen, right?
Well, I apparently, from what was said, I believe she intends to sue Proctor, and I assume, you know, others in the government. And part of that almost certainly will be allegations of Proctor's unfitness for duty, his corruption, his bias, his racism, his sexism, his misogyny, his homophobia, his just disgusting conduct generally. And clearly, I think any serious person would understand that if there is evidence to support those claims in his own writing, that a supposed plaintiff making those claims ought to be able to use that as evidence.
And to think about all of the other the tentacles, right, of this, what this means, and the other cases, the other lives, the other families, the other victims that this will impact potentially is almost catastrophic if you think about it, Mr. Bederow. Think about the other cases that could be impacted moving forward, preventing justice for victims. Also that we're showing that there was that bias or some sort of negligence, malfeasance, whatever you want to call it. Was it always there? We will find out. And I think that it's going to touch more cases than we could imagine.
Well, this is only one example, but you want to talk about real life consequences. There is that King case in Norfolk County, which he's charged with murder, and maybe he's guilty, maybe he's not, whatever. Let's assume, for purposes of this conversation, hypothetically, that he is factually guilty. Okay. I don't know if that's the case. This is I'm assuming arguendo. I'm not trying to disparage or the case. The lead investigator is Michael Proctor. Okay. Michael Proctor is a racist dirtbag. Okay. Miles King is an accused, right? Miles, right? That's his name, Miles.
Yes.
Miles King is an accused murderer who is black, who was investigated by Michael Proctor. Michael Proctor sent text messages to God knows who, laughing, musing aloud about, today is a holiday in Canton about killing black people. How in the hell do you think that's going to impact a jury in a case that he investigated of a black murder defendant, no matter how guilty or not guilty he is? Does that mean if he's guilty that he gets away with it? Not necessarily. I don't know what the evidence is or not. But do you not think a jury is going to let that percolate and at least play that out and say, is this the kind of guy who has it in him to maybe slide the scale a little bit, put his finger on the scale because he doesn't like black people the same way? Does that sound like the guy with what he said about Karen, right? The
Right.
misogyny, kill yourself, this. Is that the kind of guy who might slide the scale and lie about the time they got the car? Does that sound like the kind of guy who might lie about the way the taillight looked when he first saw it, factored in with not taking pictures of it? That doesn't make any sense investigatively. Does that sound like the kind of guy who might, fudge the truth about taillight revealing itself over the course of 2 weeks? So yes, you can plug in any kind of defendant in which Proctor is on. And if it's somebody who's black, female, gay, whatever, odds are Jewish, odds are that Michael Proctor has said something offensive about you, no matter what group you belong to. That's what he is. And this is a guy who, granted, it was in the context of his investigation, went on national TV, was asked the question if he would do anything different in at least one investigation, and pondered the question and said, nope, nothing. So should a plaintiff who's going to allege that he was involved in framing and planting evidence and corruption be entitled to those messages? 1,000% yes.
Yeah, and it just is. It's a Pandora's box, Mr. Bederow. I feel as though it will not be limited in scope, and I believe it will touch a lot of cases and frig up people that were potentially guilty, that may have, like you're saying, it's not going to affect it in a manner that like they wouldn't be found guilty. But how are you going to say with a straight face or in good conscience that somebody wouldn't look and say, I can't even trust, even if there's evidence, even if, let's say, for example, the victim named Miles King on his dying, as he's dying, said he shot me. Like those are the things that will be called into question, all because you're a piece of garbage. You're a garbage human being, Michael Proctor.
If King is factually guilty, obviously the citizens of Norfolk County have a vested interest in him being convicted, sent away for a very long time as a matter of public safety and justice and all that. And if he is factually guilty, I hope for the prosecution's standpoint, they have 37 eyewitnesses and video of him committing the crime. Because if it is kind of a circumstantial case, if there are no living, breathing witnesses, and you're talking about a dying declaration, which would be admissible as non-hearsay, that's another topic maybe we can have later, educating other Twitter lawyers about the hearsay rule.
Ooh.
That was another one this week. My God. Putting that aside, you hope that they have credible evidence that doesn't say, I have to rely upon this guy. Michael Proctor is an absolute cancer to the Massachusetts State Police. He is an absolute liability to any case in which he's touched. And he is, at this point, the poster child nationally of just how not to be a good police officer. And there's nothing he can say that's going to change that. There's nothing that his supporters can say that's going to change that, because the evidence that Michael Proctor is a racist, misogynist, homophobic, and God knows what else are his own words that he reduced to writing and sent to his buddies. And anytime you want to think that he's a good guy, just remember he wanted a defendant to kill herself. He negotiated bribery, who should receive bribes, and he jokes about killing minorities. Okay, like it's nothing. And this is a guy that the state of Massachusetts gave a fat paycheck, a gun and a shield and arrest power to. Okay, he is a disgrace to all good law enforcement.
He is also, I want you to cook on that. Keep it going. Keep this energy, Mr. Bederow, because it is everything. For real. You gave him a badge, you gave him a fat check, you gave him a gun, and you gave him protection and sent him loose on all of our community.
You left out the big one, which I mentioned. You gave him the power of the state to arrest. Okay.
Mm.
How does anybody feel about a racist, misogynist, and everything else we talked about having a gun badge and the power with the full support of the state to come up to you and say, do not move, put your hands behind your back, you are under arrest. Okay. This is something you might have expected in, Mississippi in 1885. Okay.
Mhm.
Not Massachusetts in the 2020s.
Yeah. On that note, there we'll keep watching, because that is going to be, I'm very interested into seeing what will be public information, what will come forward, who else will be implicated. And that is all that we can do, is just watch and see. Can you talk to me about hearsay?
What about it?
Can you teach me teach us lay people that are not Twitter lawyers. Okay. We don't play one on TV. We hang out with real ones in real life. But I will tell you this, Mr. Bederow, there's a lot of shit talking on the World Wide Web. And there is a lot of people who think they know everything, but know shit about shit. So why don't you clear it up?
We can do it for 5 minutes. It's
5 minutes.
It's very abstract and not that interesting.
Okay.
But in a legal sense, hearsay is simply an out-of-court statement that is offered for the truth of the matter asserted. It just somebody wants to introduce something in evidence that a prior statement outside of court, somebody said something, and I'm introducing that statement for the purpose of proving that the substance of the statement happened factually.
Okay.
And generally, the rule is that hearsay generally is inadmissible under the theory it's not reliable. Give me a witness to tell me what they saw and what happened. But there are numerous exceptions to the hearsay rule. Go on, and some of them require that the witness be unavailable, the declarant, not the witness. I mean, that's the way lawyers would use it. The declarant is the person who allegedly made the statement, but there are numerous exceptions. If something is a statement against penal interest and the witness is not available and it has indicia of reliability, that's one. Another one is what you said earlier. A classic one is a dying declaration. If somebody is contemplating their own death and makes a statement, the theory is that there's no time to reflect and think of a lie under that trauma. Yeah. So that is generally considered admissible. Another one is, an excited utterance, is the theory being if somebody is screaming and yelling that, again, they're so emotionally whatever that they're not contemplating a way to make something up. Another is a statement of future intent, that if somebody says, I'm going to do this down the line, you would say, well, that is admissible. There are other things that are considered non-hearsay if it's not offered for the truth, but it's offered to show what they call the effect on the listener, meaning it doesn't matter whether the statement's true, but the listener heard this and they contemplated it, and explains their subsequent actions. There's a party admission. So if a defendant makes a statement, the prosecutor can offer it. That's a party admission, but the defendant can't if it's self-serving. So you could go on. And the only thing that was discussed about all this nonsense online is you never want to have uneducated people going online and espousing that this is absolutely hearsay and this is absolutely not in the following circumstances. Number one, they have no idea what they're talking about. Number two, they have no legal training in what they're talking about. Number three, they're talking about it in the context of a human being they just despise and talk about endlessly. And number four, when somebody is just so factually wrong and ignorant about what they're talking about, but at the same time is calling everyone who disagrees with them an idiot, just flush it. Get those 30 seconds of your life back and flush it down the toilet and don't listen to it. That's all. I mean, look, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but
Right.
when it comes to legal rules of evidence, I would caution people to not rely on, Twitter lawyers or whatever you want to call them, who just have an opinion, a bias, a hatred, and a level of ignorance on the ultimate issue, that they're just not a credible commentator of complex legal issues that people go to school for. Okay. People take courses in evidence. People study this. Hearsay is a very complicated thing. It is a legal term. And the Twitter lawyers use it colloquially and then try to explain what it means legally. And what you think hearsay is colloquially can be entirely different in a court of law. That's all.
That's all. Okay. And I have a little message for everyone, is even for our friends or foes, from sea to shining sea, you're a mother, for Christ's sake. Okay, act like it. Some people, like, just people, come on, act normal. I know it's hard, Mr. Bederow, but really, it's getting
No,
weird.
I mean, look, everyone is entitled to their opinion. And if you hate people, or you're so biased and you want to believe that a certain person must be guilty and other people are absolutely innocent and wrongly accused and being maligned, you're entitled to that. And that's fine. And you're entitled to have whatever evidence you believe supports that. But when you stretch into, you have no legal training whatsoever and start espousing legally what is and what is not, you're just telling on yourself. Okay. And I mean, anybody who does that, you should just do what you would do in a courtroom. Do they know what they're talking about? Are they credible? Are they biased? Are they emotionally stable? Are they just trying to advance a self-serving position? It's the same kind of credibility analysis that you would use in a witness in a courtroom. That's all. And if it comes down to a legal discussion about whether this is admissible or not, just rely on lawyers to tell you. I mean, that's what lawyers do. The same way, if somebody has a medical condition, don't listen to what I say. I don't know the first thing. I couldn't tell you because I'm not a doctor. I'm a lawyer. But it's the same thing. If somebody is just a person who screams on YouTube all day but has no legal training, what they tell you about the law, I would take, with a grain of salt.
Right. And just because you've also, let's just wrap this up, but even if you've read books, allegedly you've read books, or maybe because you've had several years in the court system, that you've been maybe in family, whatever kind of court system you've had years of experience, that doesn't actually make you a lawyer. Okay. Doesn't make you a lawyer because you've been to court as much as one.
No.
So
again, but I think it's important, again, to draw the distinction here. Anybody can think whatever they want and scream and yell that I hate this guy and I think he's guilty and I think he belongs here and I hate this other defendant who is acquitted of murder and I think she's guilty and whatever. You can do all that and you can say I will defend witnesses or other people who are falsely and you're this. But when those people who have no legal training move into legal analysis of rules of evidence and how witnesses are impeached or that kind of analysis, and then resort to saying, well, if you disagree with me, you're just an idiot. Okay. Or you're a moron or a clown, literally. Those are not serious analysts. Okay. They're just revealing their own lack of credibility and exposing themselves as just biased shills. That's all. I mean, I think the people would be better served if they disagree with like your views on things by having lawyers who support their view come forward and explain legally why they do it, instead of online agitators and people who, weirdos who spend all day on Twitter with nothing to do policing the internet. I mean, and then looking for clips and bagging on this and you're a clown, you're an idiot. They would be very well served to have legal people help support them. They can stick to their own opinions. They can analyze whatever they want. They're entitled to their opinion. But when it comes to plugging it in to the legal issues and whatnot, They ought to let the lawyers do it. And I mean, I remember this during all the stuff when all the Karen back and forth was going on, and all these people would scream and yell how guilty she was. And all I would ever say is, can you recognize the concept of reasonable doubt and why this creates reasonable doubt when it relates to, medical science, engineering science? And when they ignore that and say, no, but she's guilty because of this, what I would tell people was, stop the discussion. You're not having a serious discussion. If you can't recognize what reasonable doubt is in the context of cases like that, even if you sincerely believe that they factually are guilty, then you're not doing serious legal analysis. That's all.
100%. And I feel as though it is like, I always used to try to have conversations, Mr. Bederow, with just where it came from. And I can see other people's perspectives very easily. It's not difficult. I get new information. My mind can be changed, right? I can absolutely absorb more and also form my opinion and, adjust as needed. There are some individuals, and I have never seen anything quite like it, but the dug in nature that it doesn't matter what it is. I could post something about Tewksbury State Hospital. I could post something about the Kentucky Derby, and they'd be like, "You're a dumb bitch. Karen Reed is guilty." And it's like, "Oh, honey, honey, what's the matter with you? You're unwell. We got to get to a figure it out, log off, find a hobby, babe. And
I
it
always
can't just
wonder-
be Twitter."
Right. I always wonder, well, not always. I mean, it's crossed my mind, certainly, when I see some of that. I mean, I could post about, the Celtics and, Turtle Boy this, or you're this,
Yeah.
or you're not a real lawyer because you represent a scumbag, whatever. And I always think, what are these people like in real life, assuming that there is a life off the internet? I mean, you have families, you have friends. If you have a friend who, for whatever reason, it's like, gee, I think this, do you lob that at them? I'd like to think not. I don't know. But I mean, you have to wonder about some of these people who spend all the time just surveying the internet, looking for clips to post, and then say, you're a moron, a clown, a loser, you're corrupt, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. And it's just, man, these are
sad.
strange times. These are strange times.
These are strange times. These are very strange times. And I think for people like yourself and myself who do have careers and that do this, I enjoy doing this. I enjoy having a conversation with you. It's my favorite. To start my Sunday and have this with an emotional support attorney that I consider my friend. It's amazing. But there is something to be said of when it's done, it's done. When I have to go to work, when I have to be when I got to make supper later, when I got to do all the things, what are we doing? And there is a no off switch for vitriol, but I like to believe deep in my soul that none of these assholes would have the same energy if they saw me in real life. If you had the balls to say it to my face, I'd actually have a little bit more respect for you, but you're all behind nameless, faceless accounts, and you got nothing better going on for your life. And I'm sad for you. Sad.
It's a choice. It's a way to live. Again, I mean, people, it's funny because one of the things many months ago, I made a comment that Twitter is not real life. And it was in the context of people were reporting things about me that were not true, about the status of my representation of someone and whatnot. And so when I said, get off the internet, Twitter is not real life, it was a pretty straightforward concept, which was, I'm telling you, from the source, it's not true. I don't care what you know or what you heard or what you were told or what was recorded. I'm telling you, literally, it's not true. To wit, Twitter is not real life. It's not a fact because people said it on Twitter, and they throw that back in all these other contexts about if I say something that Twitter is not real life. And I just laugh because they don't understand the comment that was made about what it meant was simply no more, no less, other than things that get said on Twitter doesn't make it true. That's all. Relax.
Relax, everyone. Right? Yeah, it's all a movie because
There's more to life than analyzing true crime on Twitter. Yes.
For sure. Please, please. I hope everyone knows that there is far more to life, and lead a rich and full one. All right. Even to those who take their time out and do what they're doing. I challenge you to just take 1 hour of that time that you spend online and just try to do something else, and then maybe make it 2 hours the next week. I know and I think that like our phones and internet and X for me is, which I still call Twitter because I'm an old woman, but like it quite literally is the fastest for news for me. So I can find something that is breaking at that moment, but I'll find myself, even Mr. Bederow, at times, why the instinctual, like human nature of like, I'm going to say something to this asshole. I've gotten so much better over the years, but every once in a while someone gets me and I'm going to go. So none of us are perfect, right?
No,
But like,
I mean,
God.
look, there's always times that,
Mm.
I mean, most of it you just ignore.
Yeah.
But, when I see something like yesterday where somebody well known to all of us is, what a joke. And you are literally the biggest clown on this 30-second clip about ARCA or whatever. And it's like, you're just a clown and this and lying. My only response to that is consider the source. Again, consider the credibility, consider the bias, consider the temperament, consider the tone, consider the level of education, and draw your own conclusion, people. If I'm a clown and you think I'm a clown, so be it. But maybe someone else is the clown in this conversation. Do you know what I mean? So, and if that drives them crazy, every now and then, do I think it's important when somebody is, again, delving into areas for which they have no understanding or training and espousing it as actual true analysis, and then having the temerity to accuse anyone else who thinks differently that the other person is an idiot? Yeah, I think it's appropriate from time to time for somebody who actually does this for a living and understands these topics to make a statement that, you know what, not a personal attack, but like, politely, this person is wrong and here's why. If that drives them crazy, whatever. Again, that's a you problem, not a me problem.
All day, every day, and twice on Sundays, and twice on Sundays for Sunday service.
Right.
Okay. Agreed. So much. And like, actually, with that being said, let's end our Sunday service on just one other topic of mental health, because mental health matters. Okay. This is also not sponsored by BetterHelp.com, but some of you fuckers need it. So go there and, click and get some counseling, and, couldn't everybody use a little bit? Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. I wanted to talk about Tewksbury State Hospital because it was big news that earlier in April of 2026, the security of that hospital where Lindsay Clancy is housed, and also we have very limited mental health hospitals and facilities left in our Commonwealth. Tewksbury State is one. There's been an uptick in violent episodes since the security have been taken away, non-lethal force, including a baton. They also had handcuffs and pepper spray, which they use very sparingly. These are very highly educated security guards. They are also highly trained in de-escalation and mental health. So they took away this. Well, Maura Healey, everybody voted that, oh no, Tewksbury State, they don't need, these security officers do not need to protect not only the patients. All right, patient to patient altercations are number one at facilities like that, but then also patient to staff altercations. There was a pregnant nurse who was struck by a chair by a family member who came in to visit. And that person has been arraigned. There was also, I think 7 attacks in 7 days on staff in Tewksbury State, and it was unbelievable. Tewksbury Police Chief Ryan Columbus is a king. Okay, he knows, and he is very transparent. He talks about being able to respond to Tewksbury State Hospital on almost a daily basis, that their police officers have also been incredibly trained into showing that they're not losing life in certain circumstances where maybe other police officers or other circumstances that we've seen have resulted in loss of life of people in mental health crisis. So, with that being said, they've brought all of this back, and it is in order to protect the nurses, the staff, also the patients. Where are you at with with the non-use of lethal force and de-escalation? I believe that should go to our community policing as well, Mr. Bederow. But do you have any thoughts on Tewksbury State as a whole, or the increase in those violent offenses that occurred?
I don't know anything about Tewksbury State specifically.
Mhm.
I assume it's like the equivalent of Bellevue here, which
Yeah.
is, I mean, Bellevue as a prison ward. I mean, because people are mentally ill and people are violent and criminal and mentally ill. I think people are living in a delusional world if they think at a state mental health facility where there are going to be dangerous people, whether they are charged with crimes or not, but who may be a physical danger to themselves, to others, to staff, to doctors, nurses, anyone. The idea that the powers that be, from their ivory tower, if you will, are going to say we're going to de-escalate and not allow any method of actual self-defense or defense of others in these facilities is delusional. I mean, it's a necessary evil. You need very well trained people who de-escalate as best you can and take it very seriously before they escalate to any level of force. But to send security guards into facilities with people that could be physically violent and dangerous, again, to themselves, to the security, to family members, to doctors, nurses, other staff, and say that you have no ability to put down an attack, if you will, whether it be mace, batons, or whatever, it is delusional, failed, idealistic, not realistic to how things work in the real world. You need to have the ability for people to de-escalate. You just and use force if necessary. You just hope it doesn't come to that. But what's the alternative? You're going to have somebody run around a hospital, damaging people, potentially killing people, killing themselves. I mean, what would you have them do? Are you going to hire security guards based on what? Purely height, weight, and how much they can bench press and whether they can tackle someone?
Right.
That's not realistic. You need security and police that are well trained, but in the appropriate circumstances can be trusted, hopefully, to use the appropriate level of force to respond to force, to neutralize a threat, and no more than necessary.
Could not have agreed more with all of that. And you think about in the olden days, Mr. Bederow, we used to do like 4-point restraints, and that was like, wild, where you would put your, arms and legs. You would have to restrain a patient if they were a risk to themselves or others. There was chemical restraints, which that was a whole different, if you give somebody a cocktail of medication to snow them, you would call it, and so that they would calm down because they needed to tranquilize, right? You don't do that anymore. And medicine has changed and come a long way, but there has to be, specifically, I believe, since the closing down of specific hospitals that were long-term residential programs for patients that had mental health chronic diagnoses and illnesses that could not be managed by families in the community, and now you have them here.
This was an issue in New York on an even worse level, where the new mayor wants social workers essentially to respond to what are deemed, not violent situations, which again, who the hell determines when that will be or how it will escalate. And, you get these people who may be having a mental health crisis. Well, we don't want to send the cops because we don't want people to get shot. Of course, nobody wants people to get shot. But if you send social workers to respond to a mental health crisis, and then the person you're trying to, deal with decides to pick up a knife and start swinging it around, are you going to have a social worker try to reason with them? No, it doesn't work that way. And there are times where bad things will happen and people will get shot because they're swinging knives around, lunging at cops or whatever. And that's unfortunate. But what's better in that situation? A police officer who can defend others, or a person in mental health crisis plunging a knife into the heart of a social worker who's trying to reason with them? I mean, that's crazy to me. I mean, that is just, police are the only ones who should be responding to matters that require the police. You need them to use discretion and be appropriate in the level of force that's used. But the idea of sending unarmed social workers to de-escalate people who traditionally call the police is, to me, a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I also think that there should be a team approach, right? Why couldn't you have a police officer and a social worker, right? That you would be able to, those best team approaches sometimes do work for the common good and for the community member, because if it is a nonviolent situation that you don't need to escalate, you have that social worker there and you're able to get to somebody sectioned. But then in case of emergency, you have a police officer with you. Did I ever tell you about the time that a kid had machetes in his house? And I'm a visiting nurse, and I went and it was like any other day, but he was well dressed. He was not disheveled, and he was always disheveled. And he was in a mania. And I knew something was off. I went to go give him his medication, and he just was too close to me. And I was like, So I went to go get my phone just to be like, I'm going to call. He's got to go to the hospital. I'm going to get him. He's got to go. He's having a moment. And I didn't think anything of it. And he stood in front of the door and he wouldn't let me leave for a minute. And I was like, but then I think he recognizes crazy. So he was like, let me get out of the way.
But you never know. And that's why you need to have.
Yeah, well, the police came to the house afterwards. He ran out in the front. The police come to the house. They go, Kim, does he have any weapons? I go, good God damn it. I said, you sons of bitches. I said, come on, guys. He doesn't have any weapons. He's just decompensating. He needs to go to Arbor. He needs to go to the hospital. Sure as shit, what's under his bed? 7 machetes. I could have been a little filleted fish. You
don't know. I mean, I have someone I represent now who's charged with killing 3 people, okay, in one incident, including 2 family members, one of whom was a young child. And it's a mental health defense, obviously. And at that time, there's all kinds of evidence which would support a mental health defense, that this is not a rational thought, appreciate the consequences, aware of your actions thing. However, a year and a half later, with all kinds of medication, all kinds of treatment, you can talk to this individual or people like him, and you'd never know, right? It's a totally different thing. So you never know what someone has done, what state they're in, are they on medication? Right. And the other thing is, when you talk about sending a social worker, yes, that would be ideal, but those things can escalate out of nowhere. I mean, you need to have a police officer aware and ready, even if it appears to be a nothing situation. So
agreed. And those are our tips of the day. Okay. Fast facts with Mr. Bederow and Kimmy. All right, Mr. Bederow, thank you so much. As usual, great conversation. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you. And what do you got going on this week? Anything?
This week, I'm doing a little travel, a lot of work, but a little travel.
Okay.
Down south. And then I'll be back. And then I've got more travel. I'm coming out your way, obviously, for the week after.
Yep.
But
to see you
tomorrow, busy day, most of the day helping train young lawyers at the Manhattan DA's office, that, what they call their trial advocacy program. So, and I get CLE for it, so that's good too. But they like to have lawyers help make the clay of the minds of clay of young idealistic prosecutors and give them worldly advice on being trial lawyers. So that's always fun. And CLE credit, which is always good. And then I'm hitting the road.
All right. Are you taking your walk after you get off? Are you doing your 4 miles?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, it's
Good.
it's good because it's good exercise. It's working. It helps with the constant stretching out the ankle, as they say, which is still very sore, but at least it's functional. But I will go on our 4 mile or so walk. Although I hate walking when it is sunny out, but it's cold, so it's not,
Yeah. Well, you'll warm up, and that walking is good. And that's nurse's orders. Do your walking so that your ankle is better, because we need
walk
you.
Walk and
hydrate. All right. Thank you, Mr. Bederow. Have an awesome week.
You too. Bye-bye.
Love you. Stop it. Yeah. All right. America, bitch. All right, listen. I love you. I wish you the best week. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Rest on the couch. Go take a walk. Okay? Do something. Do something nice for yourself. You deserve it, bitch. All right? I love your faces. I'll talk to you soon. Let's do a Talk Shit Tuesday. Sorry I was gone for the week. I was going through it. All right, but we're back. We're back, baby. All right. Bye, guys.
Fat. It ain't got your ass getting fat. Bitch, you grown, that ain't been. Anytime I see your ass up on the stairmaster, bitch, you got it on level 2. Bitch, go a little faster. Look, girl, I ain't gonna lie, I tell you how I feel. Bitch, you handcuff your big ass to the treadmill. You wanna work out now, cause you know it's getting hot. And your big ass finna pop all the bottom off the top. Got the right chicks and some tight shit in the zone. See your ass with some tight shit, we like shit.